guys, I am Caleb with Nebraska Farm Boy. Thanks for joining me on another edition of Farm Boy in 30 Minutes. Yes, I do apologize. In the background, you will probably hear a lot of bleating and baying. It's a little bottle lamb. The kids are raising him up to sell, and he thinks that he's basically a kid or something. So, yeah, you'll hear him in the background. I know it's been a while. It's been a while since I last did one of these, and some of you probably wondered if I quit. I have not quit. It was just a long series of events that have led up to today. And basically, it started with me getting my second strike on YouTube. Well, technically, since they expire every 90 days, it's not my second strike. It was probably my fifth, sixth, I don't know, maybe my eighth strike or something on YouTube, but basically second strike within 3 months, which means, you know, if you get another strike, then you're done. So I had to take down a lot of my content. The reason for that was that while normally all my strikes have always been for my knife throwing content, you know, it is what it is. This was on knife fighting. They have never taken down anything I do on knife fighting. So that meant that I had to go through and take down pretty much like half the content on the channel, anything that had to do with knives, because I didn't want to get to a third strike, because not only would I lose my channel, I'm done, cannot come back on another channel, and you know, I just didn't want to have that happen. So anyways, I had to take down all the knife content, and I didn't want to stop doing knife content, of course, because I was, you know, that's you know, like a huge part of what I do. You know, that's like the main reason I started the channel, to be honest. So I went ahead and I separated the channels. I made a second channel, and it's called Farm Boy Tactical. Now, I did misspell the handle for that. The actual name was spelled correctly, but for some reason, I was in a hurry, I guess, and I misspelled the tactical on the end of that, so I look like some moron who's like trying to teach tactics but doesn't know how to spell tactical. Thank you to all of you who pointed that out. Like, people kept on asking, did you mean to misspell tactical? And I'm like, I didn't misspell tactical, because I saw my channel name. It's like, it's spelled right. It's like, I can't tell you how many times I copied it and pasted it into Google. It's like, it says it's tactical. Tactical is spelled Tactical. You know, it's no, it was the handle that was misspelled. Anyways, it's all fixed, and if you haven't been over there, if you appreciate my knife fighting stuff or any of my protector skills stuff, you'll probably want to go over there and subscribe, because that's where it's going to be from now on. You know, basically, I wanted a fresh start and like 3 more strikes before I get kicked off on that channel, you know? Anyways, it's been quite an ordeal. So anyways, there's that 2 weeks, so I didn't, obviously I couldn't post throughout those 2 weeks. And then after that, I was trying to get my other Farm Boy Tactical, or Farm Boy Tactical, whichever you prefer, you know. I was trying to get that set up, and so yeah, I guess I didn't get around to making a Farm Boy in 30 minutes. But I'm back, and you know, today I didn't really have a very what I wanted to do was I wanted to continue on a little bit from the conversation we had last time that we did it, basically why young men are leaving the church. Because in that video I said a very controversial statement, though it wasn't half as controversial as some people took it to be, but you know, people will misunderstand what you're saying, and I wanted to clarify. What I said was that God doesn't save teenagers, and I quickly went on to clarify that He does save people between the ages of 13 and 19. I mean, I'm between those ages, and I am born again. So that's not what I meant. I quickly went on and clarified, but He doesn't save the people between the ages of 13 and 19 to be Christian teenagers. And, you know, I think part of the misunderstanding was people just don't quite understand well, for one thing, they don't understand what is wrong with teenagers in general, and for the other thing, they don't understand where the word originated. Okay, so the first point first. So what's the problem with, you know, teenager? So a lot of people use it as just a way of designating the teenage years. You know, it comes from, you know, 13, 19, you know, teenage years. So a lot of people just use it as a way of describing a certain age category. And, you know, is there really something wrong with that? Well, there's not necessarily something wrong with that, except for the fact that it immediately assumes that there's something different about that age category. Okay, so if there's something different about that age category, that also assumes that somebody has a set of guidelines for that age category, okay? So you see where I'm going with this? Okay, so in order to understand why there's a problem with the word teenager, we need to understand where it originated. So you can argue with me. The word teenager originated, I think it was in the 1800s, or it was early 1900s or late 1800s. When it was first used, it was just used to refer to people between the ages of 13 and 19. Okay, but that was just a reference. Those were brief references in a couple of different works, okay? However, where it actually became mainstream, it actually became language of the common man, if you will, was in a publication in a magazine in the 1940s. And I'm sorry, I don't have all the names, dates, and everything exactly right here, but you can look this up. It's pretty simple. It's straightforward. You can find it on all kinds of different websites. Okay, so basically, in this magazine, they were promoting this idea that we need to separate teenagers because they are of a different developmental stage than children or adults. And so basically what they wanted to say was that teenagers are not children, okay, and they're not adults. And just hang in with me here because I'm going to explain what I mean by this. Okay, so basically they say there's something in between. And because they are something in between, then that means they can have the privileges of adults without the responsibilities of children. And this is not exactly how they said it, but this is basically the meaning behind it. And that's why we have so much problem with this teenage years, this teenage category of people, you know? That they assume that because they are in this certain age category, it excuses certain behaviors. You know, they are expected to rebel against authority, be it from parents or from government or anything. Well, in a way, they're expected to rebel from, say, lower governmental let's just go with police officers, judges, or what. They can disrespect those, but they are expected to obey higher up government officials or bureaucracies who set these guidelines. Okay, so in a way, it's actually part of a pushing down big. It's a part of a way of promoting big government. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked there, but basically, they're allowed to disrespect. Okay, and especially parents. Okay, this is especially focused at parents, and they're supposed to be finding themselves, you know, figuring out their identity, who they want to be, and they're striving after autonomy. Okay, and so what this all boils down to, you use all these big words, all these nice sounding quotes. What it all boils down to is teenagers are allowed to be spoiled, rotten, selfish, while not having the responsibility, having all responsibility taken away from them. That's all there is to it. So wait, when you say that the teenager is finding himself, you're basically just saying that he's allowed to be spoiled, rotten, selfish, and do whatever he wants to do. He doesn't have a responsibility. Okay, so there's the origin of the word teenager. And that's why it has a problem. And that's why I felt justified in saying that God doesn't save teenagers to be Christian teenagers. I don't think that the word teenager has any use in my vocabulary. I mean, it kind of does. It kind of designates that group of people, but I don't feel like I'm part of that group of people. Yes, I am between the ages of 13 and 19, but I don't feel like I'm part of that group of people. I don't think it's biblical. Because when you look through the Bible, you have various age categories. You actually do. You have infants. Now, just for a quick sidetrack, infants do include both pre-born and born babies. There's not a different word for those two. They are included in that. You know, Jesus was a baby in Mary's womb. He was also a baby out of Mary's womb. Okay, I just wanted to make that a little clear there. Okay, so we've got that. We've got infants. Then we have children. Okay, so when you look in context, children could be, you know, they're older than infants. And there's not really a set designated age for where childhood ends. Now, traditionally, I'm not as well versed in this history as I should be, but traditionally, a Hebrew boy would be considered a man at the age of 13. Now, that's not really a biblical thing, however. That's more of a traditional thing, so you have to be a little bit careful there. Okay, and when I say man, that doesn't mean he was always necessarily married and having kids by the time he was 13. It just meant that he had full responsibility as it regards to the law. However, again, like I said, that's not really a biblical thing. That's more of a Jewish traditional thing. So you have to be careful here, because people try to push down this Jewish tradition on as biblical, but it's actually not. Jesus rejected the tradition of the elders. Not that everything in it was bad, but just saying that you have to obey God's word first and foremost. Okay, so there's this age group, and you have children. Okay, and so then we go on and we have people want to point to youth. Okay, so we can look at the age, the different stages in Jesus's life. Okay, he's the perfect example, right? So he was an infant. Okay, he was a child because Joseph took the child and married to Egypt because he feared Herod, right? Did I just mess that up? Was it because? Yeah. He feared Herod. Yeah, it was Herod. I was like, did I just make a terrible Bible mistake there? No, and so he took him down to Egypt. Okay, so now, then you have what's sometimes referred to as youth, but in the case of Jesus, there was the boy Jesus in the temple. He was 12 years old, and so you have that. Okay, and a lot of people would like to argue that this is where the teenage years are. Okay, and then as you go on further, you have all young men enlist in the army at 20 years of age, okay? And the way they enlisted in the army was different from the modern idea of going off to a certain place and enlisting in the national army. No, they all had small localized armies, which is kind of the way we were initially founded. But anyways, I won't get into that. So basically, you have him taking on full responsibility as a man at 20 years of age. Okay, so there is this gap, okay? We have 12 to 20, okay? So that's basically the teenage years. You have 13 and 19 between there. So you could now start to say, doesn't that mean that a teenager is a biblical concept? Again, no, because teenagers, first of all, there's the origin of the word, right? And you can't get around the actual meaning, the actual cultural context of the word. You just can't get around that, okay? And at the same time, when we think what we think of as teenagers and what was considered between that stage of childhood and manhood are two completely different things. Because if we go back to that culture, to biblical culture, okay, then you have all the young men in that age category they had huge responsibilities. They were working farms. They were just because they had to enlist in the army at 20 didn't mean that some didn't weren't involved in wars when they needed to be. But they had huge responsibilities. Okay, and that's completely incompatible with the modern idea of teenager. Okay, so basically the question becomes, if we aren't going to be teenagers, if we aren't Christian teenagers, then what are we? Okay, so we've discussed kind of why it matters, but what are we then? Because you don't just want an abstract concept, we don't just want a problem, we want a solution, right? So you can call yourself different things, and it doesn't matter, but you know what I like to call myself? I like to call myself a young man, all right? Now, if you took the word young man and applied the attributes of the modern teenager to it, then the word is useless, okay? However, the word young man has a historical and a traditional context to it, and that would be, originally, the people who are now considered teenagers would be considered young men, young women, and it implies that they have certain responsibilities. And what are those responsibilities? Because obviously, I am not going to have the same responsibilities as a 30-year-old man with kids. I don't have to take care of a wife and kids. I don't have, my family doesn't depend solely on me, right? I try to eat. Okay, I'm getting all on a tangent here, but basically, I don't have the same responsibilities as, full-blown man. I'm still living at home. I'm still in high school, So the question becomes, what am I supposed to do then? And the really clear, simple answer is, for everyone, is you're supposed to be preparing for manhood. You're supposed to be preparing for the full responsibilities of manhood, be that as a husband and a father, be that as a certain career that God's called you to, be that as just living life in a responsible way. That's what you're supposed to be working towards as a young man. It's a pretty clear cut, pretty simple, and it's a wonderful time where it is true that our brains are developing, are a little bit different from people who are older. And the difference is that our brains are developing faster. They're growing faster, which means that if we get this right when we're younger, it's actually going to be a lot easier as we go throughout our older years. Some people like to point at the teenage brain and say, hey, it's different, They can't have full, cognitive abilities. They aren't responsible for their decisions. They can't have that much responsibility. It's like, no, we have more responsibility right now because we are supposed to be preparing ourselves for the different roles that God has called us to be in. Now, you might say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, or I don't know if God's called me to be married, and it's like, no, you don't know. That's fine. I don't know either. I mean, I have an idea of, what I want to be when I grow up, but you don't have to know. You can be preparing for life, it's a time where you don't necessarily, like, say you wanted to be a doctor at 16 years old. You may not want to be a doctor when you're 21, okay? Or 19 when you're going to start going to college or for that, okay? So it's not all about preparing for a certain career. It's not all about preparing for a certain lifestyle. It's just about preparing. And you say, how do you prepare? Well, I've gone into this in different videos, but you learn skills, you could learn a trade. A trade is always going to serve you well, no matter where you are. If you know a trade and you can, operate as a single man sort of business, you'll always have work, at least in America. So you can learn skills, okay? And it doesn't just have to be a trade. You can learn little skills, like metalworking or woodworking, or I've gone into this in different videos, and you can go back and watch those videos if you want some ideas on what different skills you could be learning. And but that's just something that you can be working on. Another thing to be working on is you as a person, growing your personal character. And it's a simple fact that your responsibility before God does not begin at 21. It doesn't begin at 18. It doesn't begin after you're a teenager. It begins at birth, really. And as you grow older, you get more and more and more responsibilities added to you, and you are the more you are given, the more will be required of you. So, in other words, this is a time that you should really be taking serious, like how you behave yourself in the world, how you behave yourself before God and before man, and don't cop out just because you're young. This is a time for you to be striving. We live in too dark of times for young men to just throw in the towel. Young men have to be standing up. We don't have the luxury of just wasting 10 of our years. We have to be growing up faster because we live in a world that desperately needs us, to be honest. There's a huge shortage of young men in the world, okay? So, you can be working on you as a person. You can be building skills. You can be preparing for life and godliness, really. You can be... there's just a lot you can be doing right now. You could be starting a business. You could be making money. You could be saving money so that you can, money is pretty. If you save money, you can do a lot of things with it. Okay, maybe inflation will make it all go away, but whatever. If you save money, you can start and you suddenly decide that you don't want to be a doctor per se, but instead you wanted to start a lawn care business. Okay, that's kind of a downgrade there. But you want to start a lawn care business. Then if you've saved up money, that money doesn't just go to waste. You can use that to start your lawn care business. So you won't regret putting in work, hard physical work, and getting to a point where you have a substantial bank account. There's nothing to regret in that. Then another thing that you can be working on is strengthening yourself physically. As a young man, I think that we all have a responsibility to be strengthening ourselves. Something that I've really been convicted of, in the last years. I didn't do a push-up till I was like 14, and so I've been really working on that. Speaking of which, I forgot. Because of my 2-year strike, I actually didn't even mention that I finished the 2024 push-up challenge. I did like 300 extra, I think, so that was whatever. So we all have a responsibility to be strengthening ourselves. And of course, I think we all as young men also have a responsibility to be making ourselves to be better protectors so that we can protect the innocent public, our families. If God calls you to be married, in your marriage vow, you will solemnly swear to protect your wife, and you better have the ability to do that. I don't want to swear before God that I will protect my wife and not know like how to throw a straight punch. Yeah, obviously it's not just physical protection; it's spiritual protection and all of that. But again, I'm just saying, as young people, as young men, I think that we do have a special calling to be strengthening ourselves and a special calling to be building ourselves up as protectors. So I guess that's kind of what I wanted to talk about there. Just the difference between being a young man and being a Christian teenager. And the real difference boils down to responsibility. Are you going to take responsibility for yourself as a man, or are you just going to, be a child? Because that's it. You don't want me to call you a child. You're okay if I call you a teenager. I'm assuming that you want to be a teenager. You'd be okay if I call you a teenager, but you don't want to be called a child. But a teenager is nothing more than a child with adults' privileges. And it's a very dangerous place to be. It's a destructive place to be. And I don't know, you can choose which one you want to be, but I know as for myself, I'm going to serve the Lord. So I guess that's what I've got for you. I didn't have a question put in by any viewers. If you have a question or a topic that you want to discuss, it doesn't have to be a question. You don't have to be like have this burning thing you want to know and you think I'm going to solve your problems, because I'm probably not. I'm not that smart. But you could just have a topic that you're curious to hear about. It could be really dumb, okay? I would appreciate whatever it is. Well, actually, don't make it too dumb, okay? Try to make it smart, but, I would really appreciate it, because I don't know, I just really want to be giving back to you a little bit more, having this as more of a two-way conversation than just me spitting out what I want to say to the camera, So I guess that's pretty much it. Again, if you haven't checked out Farm Boy Tactical with the AL, okay, then I would highly recommend that you did that. And it seems like there was something else that I wanted to say. Oh! Thank you for 1,000 subscribers. I was like, I keep on forgetting to thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers. I briefly mentioned it in a post, but I was going to, literally the day I was going to put out the post saying thank you for 1,000 subscribers, I got striked. And so I couldn't do it for 2 weeks, then I forgot. And so, yes, thank you for 1,000 subscribers. And actually, the new channel, Farm Boy Tactical, we have 100 subscribers already, which is just blows my mind. Which, granted, I cheated a little bit. I had a lot of extra content that I took down from the old channel. I could just pump out the shorts really fast. And that's a really nice way to grow a channel fast. If you have a bunch of shorts, just post them. But yeah, thank you. I am definitely humbled by the fact that, any of you would take any time out of your day, let alone 30 minutes, to listen to what I have to say. And, always remember that that what I speak is not gospel truth. It's just the opinions of a farm boy. So hopefully you get a little bit out of it, though. Anyways, without any further ado, I guess that's what I've got for you guys today. We'll see you next time.